Great. So yeah, everyone knows me. My name is Kevin Jones. This is my fifth session. I work as a DevRel engineer for Edge and Node, working on the Graph protocol, which is a major blockchain protocol, decentralized network of blockchain data. And then I also work with the Build Guild, do a lot of Ethereum education. And yeah, today we're going to be talking about, again, the fifth day of learning. So let me just share my screen here and let's get going. So if anyone doesn't have this, let me just go ahead and paste this in the chat so that you guys can have it on your own machines. So I created this Notion page. You guys, if you've been on any of the previous sessions, you've probably seen this before. But this is a kind of a guidebook to every single day. So what have we done so far? So we've started out and we taught the basics of how Ethereum works. We've talked about the EVM, which is the Ethereum virtual machine. We've talked about wallets and we've talked about accounts and how those work and how you sign transactions. And we've talked a lot about things like gas. Then we went into more detail on like how you actually write smart contracts, right? We talked about Solidity. We talked about writing smart contracts. And we also did all of this using the popular toolkit that I work for or work with, which is called Scaffold-ETH. And so now we're on this kind of like last leg. We want to talk about how, after you've written your smart contract and how you've written some Solidity code and you've deployed it, how do you start interacting with it with your actual front-end application? So we're going to be talking about React hooks and components of Scaffold-ETH, which are like one of the most, I think, the coolest part of Scaffold-ETH is because it's got a lot of stuff written for you. So yeah, we've gone through all this stuff. Will get you, you could literally go through this stuff on your own time. Each session has a topic, and then each session has a homework item, right? And so we're on session 5. So we're going to go there. And this session is very, I guess, open. And so there's not really a lot of content here in the Notion. It's really just going to walk you through how to create a Scaffold-ETH project like you normally would. But we're going to do this kind of thing where we want to create a variable, a very simple thing where we want to create an address and we want to be able to update it. Nothing crazy. So we're going to go ahead and kind of start this out and just get going. We're not going to do any slides. We're not going to do any pictures or videos or anything like that. We're just going to actually write some code because I think it's the most impactful thing we can do. So I'm using tmux, which is a terminal multiplexer that just splits my screen up. So here you're looking at 3 terminals. So I'm going to do like we normally do. I'm going to do npx create-eth, and I'm going to do the latest version, and I'm going to do full stack dApp. So this is the name of the folder or the name of the project. So in this case, I'm going to put it into this folder. It's going to ask me what chain I want to use, just like we've been doing before. As I've said before, I recommend Hardhat. Hardhat is just the longest running chain that's out there versus Foundry, which is a newer tool. And it's you can write your smart contracts in Solidity. It's a little faster, but Hardhat is a little easier for new people. All your deployment scripts are written in JavaScript. So I recommend Hardhat. So let's do that. So this is going to basically scaffold out a project for us. So while that's doing that, let me go ahead and go into that folder in all these other windows here. And that's going to take a second, okay? So let me just kind of let that sit. But what I want to talk about next is, and you've all seen this page, it's the Scaffold-ETH website, so scaffold-eth.io. And more importantly, there's 2 links that are on here, the docs and the GitHub, right? So the GitHub's a great spot if you want to like dive into the code and like really understand like what the project's about. It's a Yarn package and you can go into the details, but the docs are really, really powerful. And so for the first time, I think in this entire series, we're actually going to be using the docs a lot because the docs have a lot of good examples of how you write your front end stuff, right? We've focused a lot on Solidity and writing smart contracts, but we haven't really dove into writing the front end stuff. So we're going to kind of focus on this. So let's go back to our terminal. So now our project's set up. So we can go back over here and go into this full stack dApp folder, okay? And so we want to now start up our blockchain, right? So we're going to do yarn chain. So this is going to spin up Hardhat running on a local port with all the private keys and the public keys that we need to like kind of pretend like we have a blockchain running. So it's kind of like a virtual blockchain that you're running. And then in this next window, we're always going to keep the blockchain up, right? And then in this next window, we're going to bring up our front end. So we're going to do yarn start, right? So this is going to spin up React with Next.js. So the default port is 3000 and it's ready. So it's good to go. Then in this last port, like we always have been doing, if you've followed along, you're probably like, this, oh, he's doing this again, but this is how you do it. You start your back end, you start your front end, and then you do yarn deploy, right? So that's going to take a smart contract that comes with Scaffold-ETH and deploy it, right? So we've been doing this constantly on every session. If you've been following along, you should know how to do this really well. But let's load up the code here and let's start doing some things. So I'm going to use VS Code. So I'm going to load the project in VS Code. So we have that here. Let me hide these meeting controls. Okay, cool. So here we have VS Code and we go into the packages folder. So I talked about it many times before, but Scaffold-ETH is this mono repo. So it's got like multiple packages. It's got the front end, Next.js, and the back end, which is Hard Hat. So I want to create a very basic contract. I basically want to have, and so we go to this contracts folder. This is where your smart contract sits. The Scaffold-ETH starting contract is called the greeter contract. It's called, we call it the greeter because it has a greeting, which is a string, and it just allows you to update that string, right? So what I want to do is just write a real quick smart contract using this starting like as like kind of starting thing. So I'm just going to real quick kind of like remove a bunch of stuff. So don't worry about this, but I'm just going to remove a bunch of things. I'm going to take out the variables that are defined. I'm going to take out what's in the constructor. So the constructor is very similar to like in JavaScript, you have this idea where you can do something at the time that you start a server. The constructor is exactly that. At the time you deploy the contract, that code gets initialized. So we're going to remove that. We're going to get rid of this modifier. We're just really going to rip everything out of here, actually. Let's just get rid of everything pretty much, except for this. We'll leave this modifier or this. We'll leave this withdraw function, which allows me to withdraw funds from the contract. We don't have the modifier there anymore, so we'll remove that. We also are not using the owner variable anymore, so that's going to give us an error. So I'm going to change this to message.sender. So if you followed along before, you'll know that message.sender is the person who signs the transaction. So we're going to change that. So again, we're just kind of clearing out this contract with like nothing. So now it's kind of like an empty contract. Now we need to go and fix the deploy script because we removed the constructor. So we need to come in here to where the arguments are. I think I've showed this before, but here in right below the contracts folder is this deploy folder. And inside this deploy folder is the deploy script. So you can see here, it says 00 deploy your contract. This is all written in JavaScript. So what this file does is it takes your contract here and it deploys it using what's called hard hat deploy, which is this here. And so how it does that is it gets a copy of the named accounts that are available from Hard Hat. So remember those 20 private keys that showed up when I started my chain. It grabs the very first one, and then it basically sends a transaction to the blockchain with all of the bytecode that comes in this compiled contract, and it creates a smart contract. So it uses public key cryptography in this JavaScript file to deploy a smart contract. So it passes everything it needs here. So one of the things is the arguments tab. So we don't have an argument we need to pass into our constructor because I removed it. So we need to take that out, okay? Because that's going to be an error. We also deleted the greeter function. So we need to remove this thing because we're trying to log a result from the your contract .greeting, but it's not there anymore. So we need to remove that as well. Okay. We still get a copy of the contract here, which is if we want to do something later, we can. But this is where the actual deploy happens. And this is where we get a copy of our contract to like do something. I'm going a little fast here, but it's again, if you followed in previous episodes, you'll understand why, is because I really want to get to the front end stuff. But let's just pretend that we know what we're doing pretty fast. So I'm going to save both these files. And I'm going to go ahead and deploy again. So we can always reset our contract to a new one by --resets. So we can force a new contract if we want. I always just get in the habit of doing that if we want to force a new contract. There we go. So now I deployed my new contract. So if we go to Scaffold-ETH, let's load it up. So Scaffold-ETH is a React app with Next.js on top. So it's all written in TypeScript, and it runs on React. So it's React plus TypeScript, and it's just allows me to run virtually. It's giving me a wrong network. That's because I was connected with my MetaMask. But when you first come in here, this is what you'll see. This is what Scaffold-ETH is. It's this, it's the chain and it's a front end, right? And so we have this cool tab that I've showed off many times. It's the debug contracts tab. And so for the sake of new people, I'm just going to cover it real quick, but it gives you everything that's inside of your contract available to you to interact with. So right now, there's nothing there to do. There's just that withdraw function that I left in there. So I can hit it and it's going to tell me that I don't have any balance to pay for gas. So then I could come up here to my faucet and I could get some funds and then I could press it. Then it's going to say, okay, well, there's nothing in the contract, so it can't withdraw any funds. But I could put some funds in the contract. I could send some funds there. Like here's the address for the contract. So I could go there, copy the address. I could go to the faucet here and send like 1 ETH to the contract or something like that. And so now the contract will have some value right here. See, now it says balance 1 ETH. So now I could withdraw it here. So you can see what I'm doing is I'm moving funds around. Like I took some funds from the faucet, I put them into the contract, and then I withdrew them with my burner wallet. The next thing I'm just going to touch on it briefly as well is we have this burner wallet in Scaffold-ETH. So it's like a browser-based wallet. It's not like a wallet on your phone. It's not like a wallet like MetaMask. It's inside of the browser session. So it's kind of unique where you can say like, oh, well, let's open up a new incognito window and go to the same port and I'll get a new burner wallet. So now I have this kind of like yellow blocky guy here. And here I have this kind of like red and yellow blocky guy. So it's kind of like a way for you to do like, maybe do some like testing of different identities, right, that are using an application. But anyways, so I've been able to kind of test some functionality here. And I know that like the front end's working inside this debug contracts tab. So now let's try to write a little bit of smart contract, okay? So I want to just do something very simple because of sake of time, I want to get to the front end stuff. So first thing I want to do is say address. So I want to create an address that's public that says the boss. So who is the boss? So we could set the boss to whoever we want, or we can not set it. If we don't set it to anything, it's going to be just 0x000000. That's fine. But I also want to have a function that allows me to set the boss, right? So that's the same thing. So this one is going to say like, okay, well, we have this boss variable. Now someone should be able to set the boss of who it is. So we can say function set the boss, pass the new boss name. This should be public available, and then only the boss would be set here. Okay. So we could save that and then come over here and then deploy our change, right? So this is what you do with Scaffold-ETH is you write some smart contract code, you deploy your changes, and then you come back to Scaffold-ETH and you see what's happened. Well, it reconfigured. So now we have this boss variable. So what's happening here is Scaffold-ETH is automatically generating types using TypeScript and automatically injecting them into the application so that we can see what's going on. It's really cool. It's kind of like the most important thing that Scaffold-ETH does. And we can have this boss variable, and now I can set it. So I can set it to anyone I want. So I'm going to set it to Vitalik.eth, who was one of the founders of Ethereum. Hit send. There we go. So now Vitalik is the boss. So that's successful. I could do something more interesting. Like I could say like only maybe the boss can set who the boss is. I could do something like that. But anyways, let's just keep it simple. Okay, so this is not a smart contract course. This is one that's going to be focused on the front end. Now, you don't want to ship an application that someone has to come to this debug contracts tab to interact with, right? Because it's not going to be very useful for them to interact with it. You probably want to start building your app somewhere on the main page, right? So on this main page. So let's start building an app inside of here. Okay. So let's to do that, let's go into the next folder. So we're kind of done with Hardhat. You know already Hardhat pretty well if you've been following along, but we want to focus now on the Next.js tab, okay? So here we have this contracts, we have this app folder. And then inside the app folder, we use Next.js, and then it has app router functionality. So that means that anything inside of this folder is kind of like URL-based routing. So the root page is this main root page.tsx. So you can see there's a /debug and a /block explorer URL. But we're going to use this root page, okay? And inside here, we have all this code you see here. Welcome to Scaffold-ETH 2, which is exactly what we see here. Welcome to Scaffold-ETH 2. So what I always like to do is just come in here and just rip all this out, because you don't need any of this boilerplate code. So let's just get rid of that and hit save. And then this will all go blank, okay? So you still want your header and you still want your footer here, because it gives you the night and dark mode, it gives you the burner wallet, it gives you the debug contracts, it gives you the hamburger menu. So it's got all the like cool stuff that you don't really want to get rid of. So you really just want to use this. It's also got the faucet and the block explorer links here. And like this, you could change later, but for the most part, you just want to edit here. So we're going to start doing that. So what do we want to do? We want to figure out who the boss is currently, right? So let's figure out how we do that. So if we go to Scaffold-ETH docs, so docs.scaffold-eth.io, the cool thing about Scaffold-ETH is it comes with components, which are like these really, really cool, like kind of things that work really well with Ethereum. Things like address with ENS resolution, which is the Ethereum name service. It's kind of like DNS resolution, but for Ethereum names. It has a balance component, which will allow you to switch between ETH and the actual price of ETH. So it's really cool. It will check the price of ETH. It also has an inputs for addresses in Ether and a lot of other cool stuff. It's got the Rainbow Connect button, blocky avatar. There's a lot of cool things here. So we're going to just we want to use the address one to be able to figure out who the boss is. So first of all, let's figure out how we get the boss. Well, the cool thing is we can do that using the read hook. So we'll use the component here in a second, but I want to talk about the read hook. So if you click here on interacting with your smart contract, these are all the hooks are. So the very first one I want to show off is the read hook. So we want to read data from the smart contract. We need to use scaffold read contract. So there's an example here that we can literally just copy and paste in. So let's go ahead and do that. And we're going to put it right down here at the top of our application. So this one, we're going to call it current boss. So we're going to get back some data. We want to save it as current boss, and we're going to use scaffold read contract. This is going to tell us that we don't have it available. So we can just click quick fix and add the import, and it will add it up here for us. Okay. The next thing is it wants the name of the contract. So we know that's your contract. We can get that from Scaffold-ETH, which is like right here. It's called your contract or in your actual contract. And then we want to know who the boss is. So we can just type boss actually. And now this particular, because we have this boss variable, we get access to a read function called the boss. It's the same as the variable. And we can just remove, we don't need to pass an argument. So we can actually just remove this complete line right here. And we can save that. So now we have this variable called the current boss. So what happens when we put it in here? Let's do that. So let's do current boss, right? Like that. Now it's going to look really bad. It's going to look like this. So no one's going to be like, oh, that's Vitalik's address, you know, because you might not know what numbers, unless you're a robot. So you're not going to know this is Vitalik's address. So what we need to do is resolve that address. So how do we do that? Well, Scaffold-ETH has a cool component called the address component. So let's go back to the docs. Let's go to address and let's come here. Okay, cool. So we can use this little address component. So let's try to do that. Let's replace this. We're going to do address. And we're going to do address equals current boss. Sure, like that. Now, it's going to automatically do the address import for me. See right here? It automatically imported it when I hit enter. So if you don't do that, you make sure you have to add that. So that's a little kind of gotcha. Okay, so now let's save it. Let's see how it looks now. It should look a lot better. There it goes. Now it has Vitalik and it has the little resolution. So it resolves that that's his address and it shows his little profile picture, right? So that's really cool. And it has his address with a copy paste button. But what we want to do now is make this prettier because it's up here in the corner. So we also use Daisy UI. So you can go to daisyui.com and you can go to components and you can grab any of these components and put them into Scaffold-ETH and you'll be able to start using those components. So I always like to look at the card one. It's really useful. I'll click the card. I'm just going to grab this first card right here, which is like a little shoe advertisement. Copy that. And let me paste that right up above and take the address here and replace it with here. Let's just put it here. And we're not going to say who is the boss instead, like this. And let's get rid of the picture because we don't want to sell Nikes. And let's save. And then we should have this new cool look now. Boom. So now we have this little card. And now we can move it around. So we could do, I always like to put it in another div like this. And I'm not a super good front-end developer, but I've been able to get my way around now. So we want to add another class. So if you know about CSS, you have to kind of figure out how to make things look pretty on a web page. So what I want to do is I want to do a flex container and I want to do justify center. And then I want to add some padding, like, I don't know, like 5 padding. There we go. So it looks a lot better already. Like people could come on their phone and they'd still be able to use my application, right? And it says, who's the boss? Well, Vitalik's the boss. If I was to come over here and redeploy my contract again, the boss is going to be 0x0000, and it's not going to be there anymore. Let's see. There it goes. So now the boss is gone because I redeployed my contract and it lost all the settings. But anyways, it's working. It's telling me who the boss is. That's all I care about right now. We also don't want to have this buy now button. We're going to change that in a sec. But the next thing we want to do is be able to update the boss using our front end. So we've been able to read from the Ethereum blockchain, basically. We can now read a variable. But how do we write a variable, right? Using a function. So we called this function to get the data back and update it, but now we want to update it. So let's go back to the docs for that. So we can go to the docs and we can go to the next section, which is how to write to the contract. So reuse scaffold write contract. So for this one, we're also going to use the address input component, which is really cool because it does ENS resolution. So as you type, it will resolve ENS as well. So we can do that, but let's look at the write contract and, oh, well, yeah, I guess we could let's do this one first, sure. So let's import the address input component. So come up here and we want to do address input like this. And then, and then we want to create this. So we also need to use state because someone, so if you're new to front-end programming, or any kind of React programming, there's this concept of state. Someone's going to have to go there and sit on the computer and type in an address, right? So as they type that, you need to keep track of that in React. So how you do that is you use what's called state. So we need to create some state here, and then we need to have this address input right below it. So we can just actually, first we'll copy this part and put that right here. So we'll put the state here. I think this isn't the right place for it. It's going to tell us we don't have it available, so we need to import it. So there we go. So we imported it. And then the last part we need is the address input component. So now we'll come over here right above our button. Actually, I think we probably want to have another div like this. Let's do that. Okay, so let's get rid of this variable. See, we want to say set boss. So set boss is the name of the button. Let's worry about the button later. For right now, we just want to put the address input. So what it does is as the address gets typed in, it sets the address here. And the value is being set, the value is being set to address, and then it has a placeholder here that says input your address. So we set the address using the change as people type, and then we set it to this address field. So let's save that. And then let's go ahead and see if it worked. Scaffold-ETH. Here we go. Okay, there's this weird character that's always here. There we go. So now I can type Vitalik.eth. There it goes. So it's resolving it, but it's not letting me set it because this button isn't working yet. So now we have who the boss is. We have the ability to type in a new boss. Now we just need to make a button to update the boss. So we've been able to kind of do this ENS resolution. And again, ENS is just Ethereum name service. It just does reverse lookups for what the address is and what their PFP and their name is. Okay, so now let's make that button. So go back to the docs. So back to the docs, and let's look at write contract. So now we want to have this button that does something. So we can just copy this button here, and let's do it. So do I need to do anything? Oh, I also need to copy this. So I need to, let me copy it first and show you. So I'm going to put it over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to write the contract using an asynchronous operation. So we need to use scaffold write contract. So we can click quick fix and we can import that here. And the contract name should be your contract. Why is that not working? I put that in the wrong spot. Up here, maybe? Oh. Oh, that's weird. Might have like some kind of weird bug right now, actually. Well, let me save that right now and let's see if we can get it to work. Why would this be giving me an error? Argument of type contract with strings outside of prototype your contract. Interesting. The docs might be wrong. Okay. Well, it's okay. Let's try to do this. So let's do the button. Let's see if it works. Maybe it's just kind of like throwing an error and it doesn't need it. So now let's try to replace this button. Okay. So we're going to paste this button. Let me save it real quick so it formats it. Okay. So the function is called set boss. So we're going to update some things here. So set boss, we do need to pass an argument, but we don't want to pass this. So we want to pass the address that people are typing. So it's here. So we can pass the address. And we also can send ETH if we wanted as value. So we talked about this way in the back, but whenever you send a transaction, you can use value. So you can actually like pass some ETH and you can pay some value to do something. But we're not going to do that because this one does not require it. So we're going to remove that. Okay, so that should work. I don't know why this is giving me an error. Let's pray that this works. For some reason, I don't think it's going to work, but let's see. Let's refresh. Okay, so now let's try to set the boss. So Vitalik.eth and oh, we need to do set boss. I'm a stickler here. Boss, set boss. So Vitalik.eth set boss. Boom, set boss. Target contract is not deployed. Did you run your own deploy? This is weird. I'm going to try to fix it using AI. Let's just see if it works. Oh, man. Somehow I don't think AI is going to work because it doesn't know our docs very well. That's okay. I have the answer somewhere, so let me go try to find it real quick and see. I feel like something may have changed in Scaffold-ETH recently and that I'm not aware of. But let me try to look and see. Yeah, why would that not be working? Unless I just fat fingered it when I copied it. Let's see. Let's try to do it with the types and see if that works. Oh, Okay, so I think this is the new way you have to do it, is you just have to pass the contract by itself. Okay, so it's a docs problem. Okay, so let's see if that worked. All right, so now I'm going to set the boss as italic. Boom. Okay, it works. It works successfully. So now I can set myself as the boss. So cryptomastery.eth. Okay. Hit set enter and set boss. Boom. So I'm able to like kind of create this thing, right? So we have like 10 minutes left. So what I want to do real quick is just try to deploy this to a physical, like to an actual blockchain. So what I want to do is show you how easy that is, right? So we talked about this before, but we need to generate an account to push our code to a testnet because we don't want to use the hard hat keys. So I'm going to do yarn generate to generate a private key. Okay. It's going to generate a private key and it's going to store it in my computer. It's going to ask me for a password. I'm going to set that and confirm it. Boom. Now I can do yarn account and I can get a copy of my, let me open it up real quick. So I'm basically encrypting the the private key so that no one could find it on my laptop and get it. But there's a QR code here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my Punk wallet on my phone to send some Sepolia-ETH. So Sepolia is a test network for Ethereum. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scan this, go here. I got the address, and I'm just going to send 0.1 ETH, right? Okay, there we go. Just sent it. Might take a second, but let's try to see if it comes back. Yarn account again, this is a little annoying as I have to keep typing in my password. Let's try it one more time. Might take a sec for it to go. So I just sent some ETH. Boom, boom, boom. Sometimes the testnets can take like 10 seconds. So let's try it one more time. Come on. Okay, let me try to send it one more time. Okay, there, I think it went through. Okay, so this is just checking all the balances. There we go. So now I have 0.1 ETH on Sepolia. So there's local net host, which is where I'm at now. There's mainnet, which is like actual Ethereum. And then there's Sepolia, which is the most popular test net for Ethereum. So we're going to deploy it there. All I need to do is do yarn deploy -- network Sepolia. Okay. That's going to take my smart contract. It's going to ship it to the testnet. It needs my private key because I have to sign the transaction. Oh, I must have typed it wrong. So I have to sign the transaction to propose this transaction on the blockchain. And so there it goes. It used my private key. It's basically compiling it to bytecode if it needs to. It's sending the transaction with all the bytecode, creating the contract. And then it's going to propose that. It's waiting for a response right now. So here's the transaction. We could go look at it if we want on Sepolia Etherscan, but let's just wait till it's completely deployed. Okay, there it is. It's got deployed. So we can grab that. Let's go there to Sepolia Etherscan, and let's go here. Let's type it in. So here we'll see the contract that I just, or the thing that I did, which was a success 20 seconds ago. It created a contract. Here it is. It's not verified. So if I click contract, it's not human readable. It's all this kind of gibberish. So let's verify it real quick. You always want to verify your contracts for many reasons, but mostly because you want to work in an open way and you might need to let users understand how your contract works. Because Ethereum is very, very composable, right? So we want to do verify -- network Sepolia. So what this does is it takes my smart contract and it sends it to Etherscan, and they kind of compile it for you and make sure it matches your bytecode. So the bytecode, we've talked about it before, but it's the unreadable part of your contract after it's been compiled. There it goes. Now it's verified. So now if I hit refresh, I should be able to see my contract that I just wrote. And here it is. It's this very simple function called the boss, right? So now what I want to do is show that we can update our front end to point to that one. So let's go to the app and let's go to the Scaffold-ETH config. I think I might have showed this before, but I'll show it again. There's a section here called chains.whatever. So we're going to point it to chains.sepolia. So that is the testnet. So we can save that. And then now if we go back to Scaffold-ETH, Scaffold-ETH is going to kick us out of the burner wallet, first of all. And it's going to ask us to connect our normal wallet because we don't want to use a burner wallet anymore because we're on a testnet. It's not secure for a mainnet or a testnet. So we're going to just use this regular MetaMask. So let me connect that MetaMask and hit connect. There we go. So now I'm connected with my Sepolia account or my MetaMask account. And I'm going to set it to, who am I going to set it to? atg.eth. Austin Griffith, he's the creator of Scaffold-ETH. He's the boss. All right. So I'm going to set boss. And then I need to sign a transaction. So everything I've been doing before, I'm just clicking stuff because it's all running in the browser and stuff like that. But now I actually really need to sign the transaction using my MetaMask account. So I'm going to hit confirm. It's going to tell me how much it's going to cost me. It cost me $6.88, but it's testnet ETH. But obviously we're on a layer 1, so layer 1s are very expensive. Layer 2s are a lot cheaper. But that should have worked. Let's see if it did. We can see the transaction here. There it goes. It was successful. So now if we come back here, we can refresh. There we go. Who is the boss? Austin Griffith is the boss. Okay, cool. So that was successful. The last part you might want to do is then ship your front end to a testnet or to a public network. So there's lots of ways you can do that. I'm going to be writing a separate little kind of like guide. Well, you can do it here with Next.js and using fleek.xyz. I'm going to put this into the curriculum later, but let me send it in the chat here as well. Fleek is a very decentralized way of deploying your front end, right? We deployed our smart contract to an Ethereum blockchain, which is very decentralized. The way that you can do it if you want to really quickly test is using Vercel, which probably a lot of people here are familiar with Vercel. There's a command to do that. So you can do yarn Vercel :YOLO -- prod. It's a silly command. But what this does is it takes your application, your front end, it compiles it, and it sends it to Vercel. So it's going to ask you to log into Vercel. Vercel is free up to a certain amount of usage, which is like really a lot. So you can use Vercel for free. So it's going to ask you if you want to set up and deploy. You say yes. And do you want to use it for the existing scope? Yes. Do you want to use it to that exact project? No. And then log into a different existing project? No. And then you can write what that project is. So we could call this full stack dApp test or something. That, enter. And where's the code sit? Do I want to modify settings? You got to answer these questions, but basically you're telling it where your project's sitting. It's compiling it and creating it, and then it gives you a link to the app. So once I have this link here, then it's publicly available. I can share it with anyone I want. And then I've in this entire session was like 40 minutes. I wrote a basic smart contract, nothing crazy, but I edited the front end. I built the little card with the who's the boss, the button to input who the boss is going to be, the button. Then I shipped it to a testnet, and now I'm shipping my front end to Vercel using all that. So cool. We have like 3 minutes left, so I think we'll just use these time for questions while this builds. Sorry that was kind of fast, but I think just given the amount of time that we've talked, I think for the most part, I was trying to get past all of the Solidity stuff and just focus on the front end stuff. So real quick, there's just a lot of stuff in here that I didn't talk about. There's listening to events, right? We talked about the graph, last time. But if you wanted to just read events from there, you can do that here. If you want to use a second contract, like read in another contract, you can do that here. There's a transactor, which shows this little message that you see. So there's a lot of cool stuff in here. There's also recipes, a lot of good examples in here. And everything I've done in the entire class pretty much has some little sprinkles of stuff. in here that you should learn about. Extensions is in here, like how you extend Scaffold-ETH. So a lot of cool, interesting stuff. Cool. So I'll stop talking right now and let's see if anyone has any questions that I can answer.
I think, thank you, Kevin. Like you said, you just sprinkled all over with the stuff that you all have to learn. I think Aline had some issue of not
Yeah.
having enough ETH. Okay, Aline.
Yeah, so basically it's kind of like what you did today as well when you did the Yarn account and you get your address and the QR code. And in the challenge, it said that you can get some of that ETH from like Alchemy and others, like Google Cloud, Faucet, and such. But when I put my address in there and I try to get it from there, it says that I don't have enough in my wallet since it's new created and it had 0. And you need to have at least 0.001, so they prevent some spamming and such and bots.
Well, just give your address to me and I'll send you a bunch because I have a lot. So just somehow get your address to me, or if you want to paste it in the chat here, I can send it to you before the end of the call.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so we talked yesterday. I'm trying to keep up with the participants, like on personal basis, to solve all these.
Should be this one.
Ah, cool.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna send it right now.
Yeah. So, Kevin, could you take note of that? So probably all others, when they reach that level, probably will have the same issue. Just to say it in curriculum, like something like, okay, send your wallet. When you get there, you will have the test Ethereum for that. Nothing else.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if anyone needs ETH, just you guys can ask in the Discord or in you can also go on to there's a Build Guild chat that's in the docs as well. You can ask for ETH there, and that we have so much of that ETH. We have a lot, so we can give it to you.
Cool. That was also my question. Like,
I wish it was real ETH, but it's just testnet ETH. So
yeah, and then I have like now like 4 or 5 different cryptos. Not much, but to play around with that.
Yeah, I just checked. I got it. Thanks.
Awesome.
This problem solved. So after this session, it will be uploaded on YouTube. And this is really a starting point. Also, you mentioned you will update the curriculum with this new stuff. We also expect Fawn. Tamara is the lead on that in front of Fawn. She will have also prepared some troubleshooting guide, the installation and setting up of the environment. That's important, like first steps. Somebody can do that really easily. A lot of people still are like in a fog with all this, but it will appear also like specifics. And also it will be all on one pager. Just you will be all informed on mailing list, and we are expanding that mailing list. So you will be informed of all the activities. Also track circuliranje. We will post everything on that site. The new bounties, Kevin and I will work on that, what to expect. So do your homework, do your tasks. There is no time frame except that we are doing in end of February, beginning of March, the bootcamp. It all depends on the date of the Fawn hackathon. We expect that to happen mid-March next year. That's close, like 2.5 months, 3 months from now. It will come real quickly. By that time, I expect some additional workshops, mainly troubleshooting, creating of teams, various questions. Probably we will have Kevin as well. but I will count on some domestic forces here from Serbia and the region to be involved, from some companies. So for every participant and the participant that is watching right now, in the future, do the tasks, go through them, win some new bounties, get on our list, because you will have free pass for ETH Belgrade in June, secure your spot on 2 hackathons, and I think with this you will have real good knowledge, and you will be like not an expert, but you will have a good starting point to have a job in a Web3 industry. That's it for me for the last session. Kevin, do you have something to close this final session, and wish luck to our participants?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been great to help you guys out and teach you, the basics of what you really need to become a, junior blockchain developer. And yeah, I'm excited to see, and it's really cool to see all of the regions come together and be a part of that. So I wish you guys luck, and this isn't the end. I'll be here to help support you guys, and we'll try to figure out if we can do some more sessions. We also talked about doing a in-person maybe session as well, like closer to the actual hackathon, closer to March. So we'll try to make that happen. But yeah, good luck everyone, and thanks again for having me on here.
Thank you all for participating, and good luck.
See you guys.
Thank you. See you.
Bye.